Have you ever felt like there's something dark, something deeply hidden in the stories we've been told? A truth so dangerous, so powerful, it's been kept buried for centuries, just waiting to be discovered. What if I told you that the most terrifying secret of all the truth behind the fallen angels has been concealed from you, hidden in plain sight? And what if the truth about these beings is far more sinister and shocking than anything you've ever imagined? Picture these celestial beings cast out from heaven, stripped of their glory and sent to earth. But here's the twist. What if they weren't just banished, but deliberately sent to shape the fate of humanity? Imagine a power so ancient, it still pulses through the very fabric of our world today. What if the story of these angels isn't one of punishment, but one of manipulation? A dark influence that has left its mark on every civilization, every empire, and even on the modern world we live in. But who are they really? Could these fallen angels be far more than we've been taught? What if the truth is far more horrifying than the stories of rebellion and fall from grace? What if they were never meant to be enemies, but powerful architects of humanity's darkest secrets? The deeper you go, the more twisted this story becomes. And I promise you, what I'm about to reveal will make everything you thought you knew crumble. Are you ready for the truth to unravel before your eyes? Type 757 in the comments if you're ready to face what they never wanted you to discover. Stay with me, because this journey is about to get terrifying. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the chilling truth about the fallen angels, a secret kept for too long. Prepare yourself. It's time to face the darkness. The real fallen angels, shocking biblical truth, hidden for centuries. To truly comprehend the staggering depth of influence these celestial beings may have had on the foundations of ancient civilizations, we must be willing to peel back the layers of time and venture into realms where history, myth, and divine rebellion blur. These beings, enigmatic, exiled, and powerful, were not just footnotes in ancient tales, but actors in a cosmic drama that shaped the spiritual architecture of humanity's earliest belief systems. What if the cradle of civilization itself was not only guided by kings and sages, but also stirred by the secret actions of angels who defied the heavens? Within the sacred and mysterious folds of the Judeo-Christian tradition, one of the most revealing accounts of these fallen entities can be found not in the commonly read canon, but in a text long hidden from public discourse, the apocryphal Book of Enoch. This ancient work, attributed to Enoch, the seventh patriarch from Adam and great-grandfather of Noah, is a treasure trove of forgotten truths and divine revelations. Why was this book excluded from most modern Bibles? And more importantly, what truths does it contain that some may not want you to uncover? As you journey through its verses, the narrative takes a chilling turn in Enoch 8:6-1, where a dramatic scene unfolds beneath the quiet stars of a long-lost age. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw, and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. This moment marks a divine transgression, an irreversible crossing of boundaries between the immortal and the mortal, the sacred and the profane. But pause and reflect for a moment. What kind of beings were these angels who not only observed humanity from afar, but longed to possess it so deeply that they abandoned their place in the heavens? Could this ancient text be telling us that these weren't just ethereal spirits, but physical, tangible beings who walked among ancient humans? If so, how many myths and legends we now dismiss as fantasy were actually records of forgotten encounters with the divine? Their desire wasn't merely symbolic, it was carnal, and it was catastrophic. The Watchers, as they are called, did not act on impulse alone. They made a pact, a covenant of rebellion, swearing to carry out this act together. This was not a mistake, it was a movement, and the consequences of their decision would shake the world and echo into eternity. But what drove them to this choice? Was it love, lust, envy, or something darker still? This passage, though brief, is volcanic in implication. It not only exposes the forbidden desires of heaven's sons, but it reveals something even more startling, that these angels were not abstract symbols of virtue or wrath, but real embodied beings capable of touching, feeling, and falling. Why has this truth been buried for so long? And what else remains hidden within the shadows of Scripture and time? The Book of Enoch unfolds a chilling saga, one that ventures far beyond celestial rebellion and into the realm of divine intrusion into human affairs. It recounts how a host of angels, led by the powerful and enigmatic Samyaza, descended not in silence, but in unified defiance upon the heights of Mount Hermon. There, beneath the gaze of the stars and the silent heavens, they enacted a pact that would fracture the divide between heaven and earth. These divine beings took mortal women as wives, not out of mere curiosity, but with intent and knowledge, and through them introduced to humanity a torrent of forbidden wisdom, metallurgy, enchantments, weaponry, astrology, beautification, and sorcery. But what was the true cost of this unholy exchange? And did mankind ever truly understand the magnitude of what it had received? This act, this divine trespass, was not a casual dalliance. It was seen as a cataclysmic breach of divine law, an act of rebellion so severe that it initiated a chain of events leading to their catastrophic fall. Their union with humanity was not just an affair of desire, but one of irreversible consequence. What does it mean when heavenly beings abandon their sacred posts to dwell among the sons and daughters of the dust? Could this be the moment when heaven's perfection collided with the chaos of earth, forever altering both? Though much of this story is preserved in the Book of Enoch, the canonical Bible does not entirely hide it. Rather, it hints at it, veiled in brief, but potent phrases that beg deeper examination. Genesis 6:1-2 states, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose." These sons of God, often interpreted by ancient Jewish scholars as angels, fathered a race known as the Nephilim beings, whose very name echoes with power, mystery, and dread. The word Nephilim itself, often translated as the fallen or giants, evokes a haunting presence across millennia. These were not merely men of great stature, but entities of immense influence, straddling the thin veil between the celestial and the terrestrial. How did their existence affect the world around them? Were they revered as heroes or feared as abominations? Genesis 6:4 further declares, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old men of renown." But what kind of renown was this divine honor or cursed infamy? Their legacy was not only carved in legend, but echoed in fear. These beings, offspring of a forbidden union, stood as walking contradictions, part divine, part dust. Their strength, their size, their knowledge, it all unsettled the natural order. Were they protectors or destroyers, gifts from heaven or harbingers of its wrath? Could the chaos they left behind be one of the reasons God was grieved in his heart for creating man? This eerie lineage is repeatedly tied to one of the Bible's most sobering judgments, the Great Flood. As evil multiplied upon the earth, corruption soaked through the human soul, and violence filled the land, a divine decision was made. The narrative in Genesis describes God looking upon a world gone mad, where his creation no longer resembled its purpose. Was it the influence of the Watchers and the Nephilim that tipped the scales? Did their presence accelerate the decay of mankind's morality? The flood was more than water. It was a reset, a reckoning. But it wasn't just aimed at sinful humanity. It was also heaven's response to the unnatural offspring and the fallen ones who taught humanity things it was never meant to know. What secrets were lost beneath those waters? And what echoes of that rebellion still survive in the ruins of ancient myths and unexplained structures scattered across the earth? The presence of the Nephilim in ancient scripture has long been viewed as more than a mere historical footnote. It is often interpreted as a spiritual alarm, a signal of how far the world had drifted from divine order. Their existence, born from an unnatural union between the sons of God and the daughters of men, came to represent a distortion of creation itself. It was as if their very breath defied the harmony God intended. Were they the consequence of heavenly rebellion or its weapon? And what kind of power did they truly hold, that their birth would shake the heavens and doom the earth? Many scholars and ancient interpreters believe the Nephilim played a central role in the moral collapse of pre-flood civilization. These beings, part celestial, part human, wielded not only towering strength, but knowledge and influence that set them above mere mortals. Yet this superiority was not used for divine justice or wisdom. Instead, they became beacons of hubris, leading mankind further down a path of pride, bloodshed, and spiritual ruin. As their numbers grew, so too did the corruption. Could it be that humanity, mesmerized by their power, forgot how to listen to God? Genesis 65 offers a sobering insight. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. This is no small statement. Some interpretations suggest that the Nephilim, with their overwhelming presence and semi-divine status, played a direct role in this downfall. By dominating societies, teaching forbidden practices, and introducing violence, they helped cultivate a world so dark that divine intervention was the only remaining option. Their influence was so corrupting, so complete, that the very survival of God's creation demanded a reckoning, not just a cleansing, but a reset. The flood, then, was not merely punishment. It was divine surgery, removing a cancer from creation to protect what was still salvageable. Could this explain why their extinction is emphasized so clearly? Could their annihilation be the symbolic restoration of a cosmic order violated too deeply? And yet the tale of the Nephilim did not fade with the floodwaters. Their legend echoes across continents and civilizations, whispered through the pages of mythologies, tablets, and oral traditions. From Mesopotamia to the distant corners of Greece, echoes of these hybrid beings appeared under different names: giants, titans, demigods. In some cultures, they are honored as ancient champions, almost divine in their majesty. In others, they are cursed and feared as monsters of a forgotten world. Why is this same story retold in so many tongues, so many lands? How is it that cultures with no direct connection to the Hebrew tradition still remember stories of towering beings with divine ancestry and destructive appetites? Were the Nephilim a shared memory of something the whole world once knew and then tried to forget? The tension between reverence and dread, between awe and warning, is what makes the Nephilim such enduring figures. They stand as cautionary symbols of power, unchecked, of boundaries crossed, of divine order disturbed. Could their story be more than just ancient history? Might it be a mirror for our own age, where humanity once again teeters on the edge of forbidden knowledge and unrestrained ambition The question of whether the Nephilim truly walked the earth has captivated minds for centuries. Their story lies at the edge of belief and disbelief, where scripture, archaeology, and legend intertwine. Some dismiss them as pure myth, allegorical at best, while others are convinced that physical remnants of their existence remain hidden in plain sight. Could it be that we are surrounded by whispers of their presence and have simply chosen to look the other way? Throughout history, clues have emerged, fragments of something ancient and powerful. Adding mystery to their already enigmatic legacy are numerous archaeological discoveries that some believe may serve as remnants of these legendary giants. Oversized weapons, enormous footprints, and impossible architectural feats have been presented as circumstantial yet provocative evidence of a race that once defied human limitation. Are these merely anomalies from the past, or deliberate signs left by a forgotten order? One of the most compelling categories of evidence lies in the colossal weaponry unearthed across various continents. These are not the ornate ceremonial pieces of kings or decorative displays of warlords. No, these swords, spears, and axes are massive to the point of absurdity, completely impractical for any known human physique. For instance, in Japan's Ibaraki Prefecture, housed within the sacred grounds of the Kibitsu Shrine, rests an enormous sword known as the Nodachi. Measuring over 12 feet in length and weighing more than 30 pounds, this weapon defies the limits of what a normal warrior could wield. Was this a tribute to a god, or a tool once gripped by a giant's hand? The Nodachi holds a place of honor in Japanese folklore, often associated with ancient warriors of immense power and divine lineage. But could it also be a forgotten relic of the Nephilim, those described in Genesis as the mighty men of old, men of renown? If such beings truly walked the earth, wouldn't they have left behind tools proportionate to their enormous stature? Another intriguing example emerges from Europe of the Flensburg sword. Discovered in the region of northern Germany, this weapon stretches over 7 feet long and weighs more than most modern-day battle equipment. Its size renders it nearly unusable for any average-sized human, leading many to believe it was either symbolic or designed for beings with greater physical dimensions. But symbolic of what and for whom? And the evidence doesn't end there. Museums across Europe quietly house oversized axes and spears dating back to the Bronze and Iron Ages. These artifacts, with their long handles and massive blades, suggest they were not designed for ceremonial use alone. In Greece, the Heraklion Archaeological Museum exhibits giant double-axed artifacts that seem crafted for hands much larger than ours. Similar tools have been found in Denmark and in Morocco. Entire collections of oversized implements raise more questions than they answer. Who were these tools made for? And why do so many ancient cultures seem to echo the same theme of giants? More than just weapons, evidence of these giants can be found in impressions upon the earth itself. Near the town of Umpaluzio in South Africa lies a baffling sight, what appears to be a massive human footprint embedded in solid granite, measuring nearly 4 feet long. Geologists have attempted to explain it as a natural rock formation, but its contours, depth, and alignment spark serious doubt among believers. Could this be the literal footprint of a Nephilim? Is it truly possible that granite could have been imprinted by a living being? The Bible itself reminds us, in Numbers 13:33, that giants did once terrify the land's inhabitants. There we saw the giants, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Are these words mere metaphor, or a survivor's testimony of a race that once ruled the earth? Beyond footprints and forged steel lies perhaps the most puzzling evidence of all massive stone blocks and architectural marvels that defy conventional understanding. The Baalbek stones in Lebanon weighing hundreds of tons each, still baffle engineers to this day. How were they moved? Who possessed the strength to lift and arrange them with such precision, especially in a pre-industrial world? Could this be the legacy of beings with superhuman capabilities? Beings like the Nephilim? For those who believe such relics are not coincidences or mere anomalies of ancient craftsmanship. They are markers, they are messages, they are echoes of a world once inhabited by giants, both feared and revered, whose presence bent the natural laws we now take for granted. And the deeper we dig into the earth and the past, the more it seems we are not uncovering fantasy, but rediscovering forbidden truths long buried. But let us turn our attention back to the originators of this cosmic disruption, the very beings whose rebellion gave rise to the Nephilim, the fallen angels themselves. Who were these celestial insurgents that dared to abandon the throne rooms of heaven for the temptations of earth? And what knowledge did they bring with them that changed the course of human history forever? The roles attributed to these angels are as vast and layered as the legends that surround them. While often cast as villains, they were not mere destroyers. They were teachers, bearers of secrets not meant for mortal hands. In many traditions, particularly in the Book of Enoch, these beings are portrayed as custodians of forbidden wisdom, descending not only to possess, but to enlighten. But was their teaching a gift, us, or a trap disguised as progress? In Enoch's account, these angels did far more than take human wives. They shared knowledge that would forever alter the path of humanity. They introduced mankind to skills and practices that up until that point had been cloaked in heavenly secrecy. They opened the eyes of humanity, but did they also blind the soul in the process? Enoch 8:1 gives voice to one of the most notorious among them. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. This was no minor exchange of knowledge. It was a divine unveiling of power, both seductive and destructive. Azazel, a fallen prince among angels, did not merely teach mankind how to shape metals, he taught them how to dominate. He taught them to wage war, to embellish the body, to manipulate beauty and allure. These were not innocent arts. These were tools of seduction, power, and control. What began as enlightenment quickly spiraled into corruption. Can we truly call it a gift if it severed humanity from its innocence? With the crafting of weapons came the birth of bloodshed. With the use of cosmetics and jewelry came the rise of vanity, lust, and competition. Suddenly, humanity was not only surviving, it was contending, striving, and overpowering. This was no longer Eden. It was a world reshaped by knowledge, never meant to be possessed. Have we ever stopped to ask, what price did we pay for this so-called progress? What Azazel and the Watchers introduced was not just technology, it was transformation. It was the evolution of human behavior. People who once lived by simplicity and divine provision began to rule, dominate, and ornament themselves with the symbols of self-made power. Was this the first great fall, not of angels, but of mankind itself? The ripple effects of this instruction were profound. What had been sacred became profane. What had been hidden became exploited. Could this moment, so quietly mentioned in apocryphal texts, actually be one of the most pivotal in human spiritual history? Even today, the fingerprints of these forbidden teachings are everywhere in our obsession with wealth, war, and appearance. Have we inherited more than just culture from the ancient world? Could we be carrying the very echoes of angelic rebellion within our modern civilization? Yet the impact of the fallen angels did not end with swords, jewels, or armor. Their influence seeped deeper into the very soul of human culture and consciousness. For these celestial rebels were not only blacksmiths and beauticians of a new world, they were the first spiritual teachers of a humanity too innocent to grasp the full weight of what they were receiving. What happens when divine wisdom is given without divine permission? And can knowledge be considered a blessing if it was born from rebellion? According to ancient accounts, including the Book of Enoch, these angels extended their instruction into the ethereal and unseen, teaching humanity the mysteries of the stars, the secrets of the body, and the craft of manipulating unseen forces. Astrology, medicine, and sorcery became tools of the human hand, no longer veiled behind the curtain of heaven. The stars were no longer just twinkling lights of wonder. They became maps, omens, and instruments of prediction. The human body, once cared for through divine instinct and simplicity, became an object of study, healing, and experimentation. And the invisible realm, once feared or respected, became something to control. But at what cost? This sudden awakening ushered in a cultural revolution, but not without deep spiritual consequences. Civilizations began to chart the heavens, not just with awe, but with ambition. They developed systems of celestial interpretation, created healing rituals, and summoned forces beyond their understanding. They no longer saw the world as a sacred mystery, governed by divine law, but as a system to be mastered, manipulated, and in some cases exploited. Was this enlightenment, or was it the first fall of humanity's spiritual humility? The moral weight of this knowledge cannot be overstated. The fallen angels had not merely broken from God's command, they had extended that defiance to mankind, offering them a seat at the table of cosmic rebellion. To teach is to share power. And these angels, by teaching mankind, were drawing them into their revolt, subtly shifting humanity's allegiance from the Creator to the created. Did the people of the ancient world understand what they were being drawn into? Or were they mesmerized by the light of knowledge without recognizing the shadow it cast? This act, this invitation into defiance, imbued humanity with both power and peril. Knowledge became a double-edged sword. With it came advancement, but also arrogance. With it came healing, but also heresy. The ancient texts often portray the aftermath of the angels' teachings not as a golden age of wisdom, but as a descent into chaos and moral rot. Could it be that the very things humanity prides itself on, science, astrology, and medicine, trace their roots back to an exchange that heaven never sanctioned? Their presence reverberated beyond the physical and intellectual. The very spiritual identity of ancient civilizations began to shift. These fallen beings who had descended in rebellion were now rising in the minds of mortals as gods. Their names, lost to the stars, whispered through time, became deified. Their acts of cosmic betrayal were reimagined as divine miracles. In temples across the ancient world, their likenesses may have been carved in stone. Altars could have been stained with offerings. Songs may have been sung in their honor. Were these not echoes of misplaced worship, adoration, born from confusion or perhaps fear? Indeed, the line between veneration and terror grew increasingly blurred. These beings were not merely revered, they were appeased. Their knowledge had elevated humanity, but their power had also made them unpredictable, volatile, and wrathful. Could it be that ancient rituals of sacrifice and blood were not only meant to praise, but to pacify, to calm the fury of celestial beings whose rebellion still lingered in their presence? If temples were built and rituals performed, were they not monuments to a divine memory that refused to die? And more importantly, does that memory still haunt us today, hidden behind myths, forgotten gods, and the arcane knowledge still pursued in secret? Yet despite the magnificence of the knowledge imparted, this exchange between the divine and the mortal, was not met with universal reverence. In many sacred and historical accounts, the fallen angels are cast not as heroes, but as seducers, celestial beings who, under the guise of benevolence, led mankind down a dangerous path. They embody a profound paradox: givers of advancement, and yet agents of ruin. Were they saviors offering light, or deceivers cloaked in glory? This duality, both benefactors and corruptors, creates a haunting complexity around their legacy. Their teachings catalyzed progress, yet simultaneously seeded spiritual decay. They helped civilizations ascend, while distancing humanity from the Creator. Is it possible to accept their gifts without inheriting their curse? And in seeking knowledge, did humanity unknowingly join their rebellion? In the long shadow of their influence lies a world filled with architectural and technological marvels that defy the capabilities of early civilizations. These are not merely ancient ruins. They are echoes of a time when heaven and earth collided, when celestial knowledge flowed into the hands of mortals. These structures, scattered across continents and cultures, remain as silent sentinels of an era lost to time. Could they be evidence that these fallen beings once walked among us? Consider the great pyramids of Egypt, standing like eternal mountains against the desert winds. Their scale is breathtaking, their alignment with the constellations unnervingly precise, their geometric perfection still unmatched by modern standards. How did an ancient people, supposedly limited by rudimentary tools, achieve such mastery of astronomy and engineering? Were they alone in their effort? Or were they following instructions from entities who had seen the stars from above? Some believe the pyramids were more than tombs. They were cosmic temples, built with mathematical insight that reflected the heavens themselves. Could this be the very knowledge described in Enoch, when the Watchers shared the secrets of the heavens? Were these structures part of a divine blueprint handed down by those who had once stood before God? And what of Stonehenge in England? These towering megaliths, transported over vast distances and arranged in precise celestial alignment, form a calendar carved in stone. How did those ancient builders know how to track the solstices with such precision? What drove them to raise these stones to the sky? Was it worship or remembrance of those who came from it? As we cross continents, the mystery deepens. In the high Andes of Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman continues to defy explanation. Its massive stone blocks, some weighing up to 200 tons, are cut and interlocked so precisely that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. No mortar, no machines, just seemingly impossible craftsmanship. Is this merely the result of forgotten human genius, or evidence of heavenly instruction whispered into the minds of kings and priests? Teotihuacan, the ancient city in Mexico, whose name means the place where the gods were created, offers more questions than answers. Its grand pyramid of the sun and pyramid of the moon are aligned with celestial bodies. The city's layout mirrors astronomical patterns with astonishing accuracy. But who were these gods for whom the city was named? Were they the fallen ones, deified over time by those who received their knowledge? The Nephilim may have vanished from the earth, but their legacy may still live in stone, in symmetry, and in secrets carved into the very fabric of ancient cities. Was the grandeur of these civilizations truly self-made, or were they elevated by the hands of those who had fallen from heaven? Even beyond architecture, the ancient world holds technological artifacts that feel out of place in their time. The Antikythera mechanism, an intricate device pulled from a Greek shipwreck, is often hailed as the world's first analog computer. Its gears, calculations, and celestial tracking capabilities rival modern designs. Who devised such precision? Did human ingenuity leap forward alone, or did it follow celestial instruction? Or take the Baghdad battery, a clay jar, copper tube, and iron rod that together could produce a small electric charge. Its very existence poses a startling question. Were ancient people already experimenting with electricity long before its discovery? What inspired such innovation, trial and error? Or perhaps the guidance of beings who understood creation at its core? Across cultures, timelines, and terrains, we find consistent themes: structures too massive, tools too advanced, knowledge too sudden. These are not the hallmarks of slow evolution. They feel like the echoes of revelation, and perhaps they are exactly that. If the fallen angels truly shared divine knowledge with ancient humans, their fingerprints would remain not in writings alone, but in the very bones of the earth, in stone, metal, light, and sound. What if humanity's golden ages were not born solely of genius, but of an inheritance from heaven's exiles? These marvels invite us to ask the forbidden questions. Have we underestimated the origins of human advancement? Was the bridge between man and God once crossed not by prayer, but by contact? And if so, was it a blessing or the beginning of a curse that still shapes our destiny? As we journey through the winding corridors of ancient history, illuminated by the faint but persistent glow of sacred texts, forgotten myths, and unearthed relics, we begin to recognize a striking and unshakable truth. The story of fallen beings descending from the heavens to alter the fate of mankind is not confined to a single religion or culture. It appears again and again like an echo that refuses to die. What are we to make of this pattern? Why do civilizations separated by oceans and centuries tell stories that mirror one another so precisely? Across the globe and throughout time, we find recurring themes: celestial entities who fall from grace, who bring forbidden knowledge, and who ignite both the rise and ruin of mankind. These aren't isolated myths. They are fragments of a larger narrative, scattered like ancient stars across the sky of human memory. Could it be that these myths, far from being mere imagination, are whispers of a shared legacy, an ancient truth concealed beneath the veil of time? In the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, we find the enigmatic Anunnaki. These deities were said to have descended from the heavens, bringing with them knowledge, wisdom, and the tools of civilization. They were revered and feared, seen as the architects of mankind's destiny. Their names are carved into clay tablets in the oldest known form of writing, cuneiform, and their story bears an uncanny resemblance to that of the fallen angels in the Book of Enoch, beings from the skies who disrupted the natural order and transformed the human experience. Were these Anunnaki just gods of myth, or the watchers under another name further west? In the mythic traditions of Greece, we meet the Titans, primal beings of immense strength and ancient origin, who were eventually overthrown by the Olympian gods. These Titans, like the fallen angels and their hybrid offspring, the Nephilim, stood at the threshold between order and chaos. Prometheus, one of the most well-known Titans, defied the gods by stealing fire and giving it to humanity. This act of rebellion, of imparting divine power to mortals, mirrors the very essence of what the fallen angels did. Did Prometheus not play the same role as Azazel, bestowing light and knowledge and bearing the weight of divine punishment? In the cold northern reaches, Norse mythology offers its own echoes. The Aesir and Vanir, two divine tribes, engaged with humanity in ways both benevolent and violent. Their tales speak of gods walking among men, teaching them, loving them, warring over them. These sagas, too, speak of a breach between the mortal and divine realms, a recurring motif that finds its roots in the same spiritual soil as the Watchers. Was Odin the all-seeing wanderer, a memory of a divine being who once descended to guide and judge? And across the vast oceans in the rich civilizations of the Americas, similar stories emerge. The Maya revered Kukulkan, and the Aztecs worshipped Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent gods who descended from the skies, bringing laws, calendars, mathematics, and the very blueprints of civilization. These deities were not just worshipped, they were remembered as founders. Like the Nephilim, they stood at the junction of divinity and humanity, revered as saviors, feared as rulers. Why does the image of a serpent descending God appear in so many parts of the world? Even the stories of ancient Egypt, though often interpreted through the lens of kingship and sun worship, speak of Thoth, the divine scribe who gave writing to mankind, and Osiris, the judge of the dead, who was once a king walking among men. Again, we see the theme of divine knowledge bestowed, and of divine beings who suffered, taught, or rebelled. Are these echoes truly accidental, or are they fragments of a single forgotten history? What connects the Anunnaki, the Titans, the feathered serpents, and the Watchers is not just the fact that they all came from the sky. It is that they brought knowledge, sacred, dangerous, and transformative. And with that knowledge came a cost. Civilizations were born, but innocence was lost. Humanity reached higher, but perhaps fell further. Could these similarities be more than coincidental? Could they be evidence of real encounters seen through the different lenses of culture and time? If so, then we must ask the uncomfortable question: who were these beings really? Were they angels cast out of heaven? Were they gods punished for compassion? Or were they something else entirely, entities of power whose presence among mankind forever altered the trajectory of human development? Are the world's myths merely imaginative tales, or are they encrypted memories of events our ancestors witnessed with trembling eyes? And if the same story is told around the world, does that suggest a shared source, a moment in history so impactful, so transcendent, that it was etched into the soul of every civilization? As we trace the recurring rhythm of these legends, we find ourselves on the edge of a revelation that the boundary between myth and memory may not be as firm as we were taught. And perhaps, just perhaps, the ancient world knew something we have forgotten, or were never meant to remember. As we draw the final veil over this profound journey into the mysterious realm of fallen angels and their possible imprint on ancient civilizations, we find ourselves standing at a sacred crossroads, a place where myth confronts history, where legend dances with evidence, and where belief must wrestle with the weight of possibility. This has not merely been a journey through stories, it has been an unveiling of questions buried deep within the human spirit. Every ancient tale we've examined, every stone monument and whispered myth, forms part of a vast, interconnected narrative, a tapestry that stretches across time, cultures, and continents. The saga of the fallen angels, drawn from texts like the Book of Enoch and mirrored in countless mythologies around the globe, reveals a universal pattern: beings from above who defied the divine order, descended to earth, and reshaped the destiny of mankind. But what was their true purpose? Were they teachers or deceivers? Were they sent to help or to hinder? This labyrinth of ancient accounts does not offer easy answers. In fact, the deeper we journey, the more we realize that knowledge itself is a double-edged sword, much like the teachings of the Watchers. With every artifact uncovered and every scripture deciphered, we are drawn further into the mystery suspended between awe and apprehension. What if the divine once walked among us, not in distant metaphor, but in literal presence? The influence of these beings, whether real or symbolic, cannot be denied. They appear in sacred texts, are etched into temple walls, and are echoed in legends passed down for generations. They are a bridge between worlds, a rupture in the fabric of the purely human experience. Could it be that the very pillars of civilization, astronomy, architecture, medicine, warfare, were shaped not only by human effort, but by knowledge gifted or stolen from beings not entirely of this world. These questions, however unsettling, are not meant to frighten, but to awaken. They invite us to think critically about the stories we inherit, the monuments we revere, and the unseen forces that may still shape our world. Perhaps the enduring myth of the fallen angels is less about punishment and more about revelation. Perhaps it is a mirror held up to humanity, a reflection of our thirst for power, our longing for the divine, and our eternal dance with the forbidden. The story of the fallen angels is more than a tale of rebellion. It is a window into the human soul. It reveals our deepest desire to know, to understand, and to transcend our limits. Whether literal or allegorical, these beings speak to something ancient within us, the echo of a time when heaven and earth were closer, when the stars were teachers, and when knowledge came at a price. So as we continue to explore the ruins of our past and the riddles of our faith, let us remember some truths are not buried, but hidden in plain sight, waiting for those with eyes to see and hearts to perceive. Now we turn the question to you. Do you believe fallen angels could have influenced ancient civilizations? What meaning do you draw from the shared myth of sky-born teachers, celestial rebels, and the knowledge that changed the course of humanity? We invite you to join the conversation in the comments below. Share your insights, your questions, your theories. And if this journey stirred something within you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment 757 to let us know you're one of the few still seeking the hidden truth. Thank you for walking with us through this divine mystery. Until next time, keep watching the skies and listening for the echoes of the past.